All right, welcome everybody. I'm super excited to share my repertoire. It's a traditional Colle system repertoire, and it's targeted at adult improvers under the rating of 1700 or so, chess.com or FIDE. And this repertoire, I made it for myself. I was really surprised. It exceeded my expectations as far as the ease of memorization, the actual effectiveness of the repertoire. And so I thought, well, why not build up my karma bank a bit and put it out into the universe, make it freely available to everybody, including the annotated files. As you can see here, it's a fully annotated repertoire from front to end. And what I'm going to cover in this first introductory video is I'm going to go over like just the general ideas of the repertoire, and then I'm going to go over and show how I put the repertoire together and what I decided to put in there, how I made the determination of what to actually include. And then I will show you guys where to find access to these annotated files of the repertoire, so you can get your own copy and load it into your own software, or Chessable or chessbook.com or something like that. And then I'll just quickly touch on my plans going forward, and then how to best make use of this series that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be working on this for quite a while because it's what I'm playing now. So I'm going to pull up some shots of just kind of general ideas of what this repertoire is about, so you can get a feel for it and decide if it's something you'd be interested in. All right, so this repertoire is a traditional Colle system repertoire. And so I'm not going to be explaining all the moves and everything like this. I'm going to be making a series of videos next, which is just going to give a kind of general ideas or just a general overview of each of the major different sections of the repertoire. And then after that, my goal was to make a video once a week, release it on Fridays, where I cover stuff on the Colle system. And we kind of dive into it more deeply. But the way that I put this repertoire together, I was trying to find something that somebody with a poor memory like myself can use and get good playable positions without having to memorize all kinds of stuff. So I tried to look for like certain ways of setting up and memory markers and cross themes between the different setups for black, and I was really surprised with how well this thing turned out. And so the traditional Colle, when black plays d5, either right away or at some point, we tend to set up our pieces like so. And the goal is that we are going to be going at some point to break with e4 and bust the center open a bit, and then try to have more space than our opponent. And just try to, it can go in different ways, but the overarching idea of our repertoire is, for the most part, and there'll be different ways of doing it against different setups, and I'll cover that in videos, but is to set up our pieces and go for the e4 break. So that's kind of like when it goes down, when black plays in kind of a common way where they set up like as though they're playing the Queen's Gambit declined, or other d4, d5 kind of setups. Now, one thing you'll run across is what I call the anti-Colle, or it's commonly called the anti-Colle, where black knows that we're going to do this kind of setup here with our bishop coming out to d3. So they try to beat us to the punch and put their bishop on f5 before we can get our bishop to d3. And I notice I forgot to put the one knight on the board, but that's okay. In a nutshell, how we are going to do it is we're just going to take it head on and put our bishop on d3 anyway. And we will get a position like this, and I'll cover the different paths that this can go down. But in a nutshell, our idea is that we are threatening, if they play something like e6, which is actually by far the most common move in this type of position for black to play, we come out to b5 with check, and we pick off this b7 pawn because they gave up protection of that pawn when they moved their bishop out to f5. Now there's a bunch of different ways they can go about that, and we cover it, but that's the theme, and it's easy to play, easy to memorize. Then another setup that black can tend to do is the Slav setup. And against Slav setups, we're going to have easy memory markers whenever black plays bishop to g4, and especially in these Slav setups, we're going to bust with c4. We're going to bring our queen out to b3, once again targeting that pawn that this bishop left protection of, and also putting pressure on the center. So that's our general kind of high-level idea of what we're doing against the Slav. One other thing you'll see, especially at the lower levels, you see this much more than when you get a little bit at higher levels, are these Chigorin setups where black plays knight to c6 before they move their c-pawn. And their idea is that they're trying to enforce an e5 break real quickly. And so we're going to, when we play against that, our idea is going to be we're going to play bishop to b5, and we're going to follow it up with a real quick c4. And that's a very effective way to neutralize their ideas. If they know what they're doing, sometimes you'll have people play this that don't know what they're doing, and then it can get real ugly real quick for them. And then finally, the last kind of thing that, now, of course, there's all types of different things that I cover, and we'll go through in a second here on how I chose what to put in here. But the final main thing is when black does a quick kingside fianchetto, either with the King's Indian defense where they plan on playing pawn to d6 and trying to get e5 in, or if they play d5, a Grunfeld type setup. But what we're going to do is when we see them go for this early kingside fianchetto, we're going to play our knight on b to d2 to help us push through e4. So if they don't want us to play e4, then they have to play d5. And if it's a King's Indian player, then they're stuck playing a Grunfeld. But most players are going to play bishop to g7, let us play e4, and then we're going to set up our pieces in a certain way. Now, there's all kinds of different ways to play against the King's Indian. I chose a way that fits in thematically with how we set up our pieces in this repertoire, but I will kind of point out another resource that you can use if you want an alternative way to play against that. So that's our general idea of the repertoire, and now I'm just going to bounce in and kind of show you how I decided what to include and how deep to go within the repertoire and how I chose lines. All right, so I got chessbook.com pulled up here, and that's what I actually used to create this repertoire. And if you want to see how I actually did it, I'll put a link up above me here to me actually making the first draft of this repertoire using chessbook.com. But basically what chessbook.com in a nutshell is it's a tool that I think is particularly helpful for club players to help design and then practice a repertoire at your level. And so what do we mean by at your level? Well, when I built this repertoire, I entered certain settings in there. And the settings I entered, I'll pull up the settings here real quick, is I wanted to cover only positions or lines that would come up in at least 1 out of 150 games that you play. So if you have a line that only comes up in 1 out of 500 games, I did not want that in there, right? I think 1 out of lines or positions that come up in that you would see in 1 out of 150 games, I think is a very reasonable number for people under 1800. And I put in a rating of 1600 to 1800 on chess.com. And so it's going to focus in and have you build your repertoire around moves that you will see at that level, and then help you pick moves that are effective at that level. So you can think of it as this repertoire is optimized for players under 1800 on chess.com and tailored to be of a depth or a breadth of a repertoire that would be efficient and effective for you to study, so you're not studying things that you'll see one time out of 500, say, because like who has time for that, right? So that's how I decided what to include. So and then the other interesting thing is it gives you these repertoire stats, and this is as I was going through it, I was really excited by how it kind of flowed and how easy it was to remember. And I noticed when I was doing it that the positions tended to score well that you would commonly get, which I guess, you don't think of the Colle system, like at grandmaster level, they know how to neutralize it, and IM level and stuff like that. But at club level, it seems to be quite effective. And if we look at the effectiveness of the repertoire here, it says, if I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the screen, but it says your repertoire has a higher expected win rate than 97% of players at your level. So it doesn't mean 97% of different repertoires, but what it means is that the moves people actually play at 1600 to 1800 level on chess.com, if we play these moves, if we can just remember these moves and play these moves, we'll have a higher expected win rate than 97% of the people, right? So that being said, why would you want to memorize something really, like some real open Sicilian or something just with, potential moves up the wazoo, when you can play the Colle system and still be better off than 97% of the people? And then it also has a soundness rating, or statistics, and this one says your repertoire has a higher expected stockfish evaluation or computer evaluation than 87% of players at your level. So this thing is safe, safe and sound and effective. And I'm a retired pharmacist, and rarely in my actual career, my line of work, would I run across things so safe and effective. Pharmacists will kind of get the joke. But so anyway, that's how I decided what to include. I went to focused in on players under 1800 on chess.com by putting it to 1600 to 1800 range and seeing what players play at that level, and including things that would come up at least 1 out of 150 games you play. So that should be enough, enough lines or depths that you can still have a manageable amount to remember. If you understand it, the things that are less common than that, kind of apply the ideas, and you'll be fine. And so the next thing is I'll show real quick how to find these repertoires, because I did annotate the entire repertoire, and I want everybody to have access to that, so that if you can put it into ChessBase if that's what you use. You can put it into your own Lichess study or your own chess.com library, or if you wanted to load it into Chessable or chessbook.com for some kind of spaced repetition training, then that would be available to you. So let me pop in and find those. All right, so there'll be 2 places where this will be available. One will be in this chess.com library that I will put a link to in the video description, and that will be publicly available. So you can come in here. You'll have this fully annotated file. So if you want to, you could click this analyze button, pull it up, and look at it if you just wanted to use this as a platform to kind of, look at the lines. Or you can hit this download button, and that will download it as a database file, a PGN file, and you can use that to load into Chessable or chessbook.com or whatever resource that you use to study your openings, ChessBase, whatever. And the other place I put it, and this will be a link for this will be down below as well, is in a Lichess study. So let me get that pulled up here. All right, so I have this Lichess study pulled up. And so this is the other place you can access this repertoire with the annotations on it. So it's the same file that's in the chess.com library. Of course, that link to this one as well is in the video description below. And how this works is you can, go on the right and scroll through any of these moves if you would like to do that. What's kind of nice too, because it has access to the Lichess database, so you can see how well these positions score against your opponents. But that's a different topic for a different discussion for a different time. You can see the annotations will show down here if you select on this as you're going through it. And if you want to download it, you can hit this button here, hover over this box here that's share and export, and then you can hit download either the study PGN or the chapter PGN. maybe just click the chapter one, and it will export this the same way that the chess.com library will, as a database file, and it will include all these annotations so you can load that into your favorite opening training software. So that about covers it for the introductory video. So my plans going forward, I'm going to make a short video on each of the kind of main different setups that we'll face. And so then you'll kind of get a feel for it, and you'll see how it flows and how these different kind of memory markers make it very easy to remember this repertoire. And then what my plan is for the next period of time, I want to release a video every Friday. I'm playing this myself, and I'm playing this to help me meet my own goals that I set for myself this year. I want to take kind of a more simplified approach to chess, and I was really happy to kind of see how this repertoire just kind of resonates with me. And so that's why I'm sharing it kind of with the world. Maybe other people will be able to give me insights as well. But I do think it's like really effective and a really good use of our time, so that we can not get overwhelmed with openings, still get good playable positions, gain experience with positions coming out of this opening over time. And so, like I said, my idea is to drop a new video every Friday for some time going forward. And we'll either discuss, maybe look at a master game in some of these positions, maybe go over a game or two of mine and compare it to see what kind of mistakes I made or what I learned from it. Maybe we'll look at some common tactics that come out of this, or ways to play certain end games coming out of these openings. But the idea would be one video every Friday for some time going forward. So the next, I'll just create a playlist. So the next set of videos will be going over the kind of the different setups, and I'm not going to be like, it's not going to be like a Chessable course where I'm going through each and every move and talking about every move. We're going to go over at a kind of a high level, because this is such kind of like a simple repertoire, and you have access to the annotated file anyway that you can go through on your own. But over time, my hope is that we get real good at playing the Colle, and we'll have a lot of success together. So hope you consider it. I do think you'd be doing yourself a really good favor if you're a player under 1800. Your games are not going to be determined by learning some, newest kind of little trap in an opening or something. You just got to get a good playable position that you understand how to play, and then work on other things like visualization and tactics and calculation and whatnot. So looking forward to making more videos on these, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Take care now.